F1 is directed by Joseph Kosinski and stars Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, among others. And in this story, it deals with a former Formula One racer played by Brad Pitt who comes out of retirement in order to essentially save his former team from going down under. And he ends up getting into a rivalry with one of the recruits that's played by, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce his name, Damson Idris. And it's familiar, if you've seen from other racing movies, you kind of know the story how it goes, where you have your seasoned veteran racer that is trying to show off and everything, and then you also have your rivalry with one of the newer recruits and stuff that's trying to do and then make a name for himself and all that, and it becomes like what you would expect from these type of racing type films, but it takes it in a very vulnerable way. It takes it in a very unique way with being able to showcase a lot of the stuff that goes with not only with them having to work as a team, but also to showcase a lot of what we see and the struggles that it has with Brad Pitt's character throughout, as it's able to to see that he's come from a time where in his view things were a lot different in the way that he was winning and stuff, and even though he was suffered from a lot of injuries and stuff back then and had to retire, he still tries to bring that old way of trying to make it work in modern times and trying to fit, while also trying to reason and work well with his rival and coming to terms and everything. Now here's a little backstory. Now this movie was directed by Joseph Kosinski, who I've been an avid fan of from a lot of his other films I've enjoyed, especially from Oblivion to Top Gun Maverick from a few years ago, which I really loved. And going to the trailers from this, I didn't really expect much because I'll be honest that I don't really watch racing that much, and I haven't really paid attention to much of Formula One. I know there's been some movies in the past that have kind of used that have used Formula One, especially movies like Driven and even that one from years ago called Rush, which I heard was really good. So it's very far in between we get these type of movies that come along, and I still want to at least check out Rush one of these days. But going to the trailers, I kind of just figured it would just be your standard, race film and stuff, kind of like Days of Thunder or or even that one from a few years ago called Ford versus Ferrari and stuff. So it's kind of, or even Gran Turismo. So it's kind of what I expected from it, and I didn't really think much about it. But after upon seeing it, I gotta say that this was quite a surprise. This was certainly one of the best films I've seen so far. One of the best movies I've seen all year. And it really took me in a lot of great way. It took me by surprise with how much I really loved it. Now, to get my pros out of the way, I thought the performances in this were all phenomenal. Brad Pitt, what can I say? He nails it as usual, and I really appreciate that. They give him this vibe of this kind of like what we had with Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick, where you have a seasoned type of person that comes around and they're trying to showcase and be like be a trainer for like some of the other for the younger recruits and stuff. And this case, it's basically him more of trying to earn the glory days that like he used to have, and while also trying to avoid while having a rivalry with his younger compatriot. And I really enjoyed the chemistry between him and Damson Idris. I thought they were not only really fun to watch, but also the way that it plays into where they're trying to one-up each other and stuff. At first, it kind of goes with that, but then you start to see that they have a mutual respect for each other and the way it plays along, and that they're having to work together as a team and everything. And the rivalry still happens, but it's also more about them trying to pretty much be more of them working together as one, because it's all about them actually trying to go for the race itself, because even Brad Pitt's character in the movie says it's not about the money. It's all about his love for his passion for the racing, and the way that it also comes from his backstory involved with his dad and everything, which I really got into. And you could also see the side that it comes from Damson's character, because of him trying to do what's best for him and also his mother and everything. It's like he's really trying to succeed, but also he's not used to a lot of the ways that Brad Pitt's character is used to and everything. So you can definitely see the dynamic that happens between both sides, and you get both of their points of view on things. But I also really enjoyed the rest of the performances too, especially Kerry Condon, and Javier Bardem is also great as usual. And then the racing sequences in this are all really top notch, especially when you get to see a lot of the first person scenes where they're behind the wheel and stuff, and they're going around the tracks and everything. It gets really intense in a lot of parts, and unfortunately I didn't get to see this movie in IMAX. But I still saw it, with being able to see the scope they went with, because a lot of the tracks and everything makes you really feel like you're there on the race. And it gets some really dangerous levels that was giving me actually flashbacks to watching movies like Gran Turismo from a couple years ago, and there's some things that happen like similar to that movie. And then the soundtrack was also great too. They have some really great songs from like Led Zeppelin, to some other big names that come up throughout the film. And then I also really loved the score from Hans Zimmer. I thought this is definitely one of my favorites that he's done. And while it may not be as like very iconic as say some of his other big works, I still thought it was very memorable, and it really puts you in a gear in that very emotional impact, and it gets you in that very high stakes the way things play out and stuff. And just the way that the story builds more and more as it goes along, I really felt the vibe that was happening. As you know, even though the stakes get more higher, as there's also some really cool stuff they really put a spin on. Where, not gonna go into detail, but there's some that involves a Carrie Condon's character where she's having to be more the tech expert on stuff when it comes to the stuff on the track, when it comes to the cars, to the cars and everything. And the way it plays into, I thought was really unique. The way that she's able to do some like modifications and stuff. I thought that was really unique. I thought it was really cool how they did that. And then the movie just has a really good feel good vibe where you really want to see how it plays out and everything. And there's just such a great sense of the underdog type of story while also mixed with like the seasoned veteran story. And again, in a really good way, it blends both of it well. If I have like any kind of minor cons, like, I will say the pacing's a little long, because I did feel like the movie kind of ran a little more. It ran a little bit longer than it should have, and there's some like trimming here and there they could have done with, but it didn't really bother me too much because I was still invested with the movie. But other than that, though, I still really highly loved the movie a lot, and with that, I'm going to give it a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. And so, for those of you who have also seen F1, let me know in the comments what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.